Welcome back to Never Did It. I'm Jake Ziegler, and I'm here with Brad Garoon. On Never Did It, we look back at the last 100 years of movie history in an effort to fill in some of our own movie blind spots. Today, we're covering the year 1932, and we've got a couple of really interesting movies to talk about. Do you want to do Trouble in Paradise first? Start with Lubitsch.
Yeah, let's do it. So Ernst Lubitsch, the king of romantic comedy. We covered him before on this podcast. We talked about To Be or Not to Be, which is now one of my favorite movies. Today we're talking about Trouble in Paradise, like Jake just said. Trouble in Paradise is a sort of love triangle type movie about like international con man, international man of mystery who meets his match at the top of the movie. It's a great scene. He's played by Herbert Marshall, and he meets Miriam Hopkins. They both think that the other is a well-to-do, high society Italian at the start of the film, and then it turns out they're both just con people. They're both just crooks. And so, of course, they fall in love immediately. It's the 30s. But also, they're so irresistible. So they go to France, where they meet a character played by Kay Francis. And she's the heiress of a perfume dynasty?
I think that's right, yeah.
At the opera one night, the two principal crooks conspire to steal her very bejeweled handbag, her obscenely priced handbag. And then when a reward is put out for it, Gaston, of the many different last names, brings it back to her and then uses that scenario to land a job as her secretary, which really means like she has a butler, but he's like her executive assistant. Mm-hmm. And then he starts falling in love with her, and she starts falling in love with him. And there's at the same time another love triangle going on between Francis and two high society gentlemen. One is a major, like probably a military major, and the other is just a well-to-do guy played by Edward Everett Horton, who is like our favorite.
That's right.
He's everyone's favorite grunkle, gay uncle, and he's just as befuddled in this as he is in every other movie he's in. I talked about him in the movie Holiday, starring Cary Grant, and then we also covered him in Top Hat.
I've also seen him in Arsenic and Old Lace.
So I've got to check that out now.
Yeah, you'd really like that. That's great. And he's perfect in that, too.
Is that Billy Wilder?
No, that is Capra.
Capra. So it's schmaltzy.
It is a little schmaltzy, but it's also about old ladies who kill people. So,
okay, cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's like the whole, and that's not a spoiler. That's like the conceit of the thing. We actually did it when, I'm sorry, this is kind of a tangent here, but when we were in high school, the drama used to do 2 plays a year, one in the fall, one in the spring, and they would always have a teacher who was the director and then a student director under them, working with them. But when we were seniors, everybody at the school loved my friend Nick Franklair, who you'll meet in a couple of weeks. Everyone loved him so much he got to actually direct the play, not instead of a teacher, and then I was his student director, his assistant, and the play we did was Arsenic and Old Lace. So I have a very personal connection to the movie, plus it's just really funny. I think you'd like it.
And EEH is in it, so I'm gonna like it.
Absolutely, yep.
That love triangle is going on, but while Gaston and his perfume lady are falling in love with each other, the other people in these love triangles are getting upset. And so I recommended it just because I'd never seen it, by the way. I just thought it looked cool and funny, and it was. And I really liked it. What did you think of it?
I liked it a lot, too. I should say I did have a little bit of a hard time with it because I couldn't find any version of it with subtitles anywhere.
Oh, weird. You should have asked me. There is a Roku app that has it with Oh, maybe it didn't have subtitles because I just watched it.
Okay, yeah, because I watched it on a thing called FlixFling.
Does that have a weird sidebar when you bring up the app?
Yeah.
Okay, I watched it there too.
Or that was the only place you could find it anywhere. And then unfortunately there were no subtitles attached to it. So there's a couple times I probably didn't quite hear it, and I had to rewind it a couple times too, just to make sure I was okay, did I hear that right? So I definitely enjoyed the movie. I love the love triangle aspect of it. I love the, the high society thing that they're trying to get into and everything. And it's just really charming and funny. But I did really enjoy it. It's hard for me to give the highest recommendation just because again, without subtitles, I have a really hard time.
Was there any things in particular that you found hard to understand? Because I know a lot, it's very fast talking.
Not anything in particular, just, certain conversations, maybe would just be too fast or a little quiet, or it's just tough, tough for me to hear in general.
Fair enough. We probably need to now watch The Shop Around the Corner, which is most well-known.
Yeah, I've never seen it, but I know my wife really likes You've Got Mail, so I could probably talk her, or not, yeah, is that that's the remake, You've Got Mail, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Of Shop Around the Corner? Yeah. Have you seen either of them?
I've seen You've Got Mail. I've never seen The Shop Around the Corner.
Yeah, You've Got Mail is a remake of that.
Oh, I had no idea. Speaking of remakes, we talked about Wes Anderson and the Grand Budapest Hotel last week because Ray Fiennes came up as part of the English Patient. But Grand Budapest Hotel is hugely pulling from Trouble in Paradise.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And Twizzleton's character, Ray Fiennes' character, was largely influenced by Gaston, by Herbert Marshall's Gaston Monescu. And now that I'm seeing that, I'm like, oh yeah, obviously that's so
Now that
funny.
you say it, yeah, it's right there. Yeah.
So anyway, if you're a fan of Grand Budapest Hotel but would like to see it in black and white,
Yeah.
check this out. Was this movie awarded any Oscars?
No Oscar love for Trouble in Paradise at all. It is has been added to the Library of Congress, though, one of those films that was selected, so it has been recognized, as important, but at the time, didn't make a big dent.
Yeah, it also is on the National Board of Review's top 10 films of 1932. I mean, it's in my top 2 films of 1932. Yeah. And then Roger Ebert also had it in his, I don't know what this was, but he had something called his Great Movies Collection, and this is there.
That was just like a series of reviews. It was basically like, if he felt like, I'd like to talk about Trouble in Paradise this week because I really love that movie. Great movies, Trouble in Paradise. Like, I think it was just kind of a series for him to write about movies that he loved.
That's pretty cool.
I watched a lot of movies from that. Like, when I see those come up, I'd be like, I was obsessed with them, and I still think he's the best. But yeah, I watched a lot of movies from his great movies list.
What did you think of the dynamic between Marshall and Francis versus the dynamic between like Marshall and Hopkins?
So between him and the one, him and the two women,
So like personally, every time he and Hopkins were on screen together, I was like, this is the best movie of all time.
Yeah,
like, I just want to watch these two go at it. The best thing about it is, and you see this now, this has been like ripped off in tons of movies. They're stealing from each other throughout the movie.
I loved that. I was trying to think of what other movies are there where they do that, because I know I've seen that before.
It reminded me right away of like Catwoman in The Dark Knight Rises. It's got kind of a Mr. and Mrs. Smith vibe where it's like who can one up the other one. Although in this one, they're like they're on the same side. They're just like playing with each other.
Yeah.
But then it leads to like the perfect ending where not only does he steal those pearls for her and she's already stolen them from him, but then he has stolen the handbag, the important handbag from the beginning of the movie. It's a great ending. And I thought Frances was very good too. And like she was both like very sexy.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that her face doesn't exist anymore, like that face has been outlawed since 1930. She has a face that has never seen an iPhone, is what they say on the internet now.
Oh.
But she's very sexy, and then really fun movie. And then you recommended for me I'm a Fugitive on a Chain Gang.
Yes, I hadn't seen this movie probably since college. I remember studying it. I had a class, my favorite professor named Steve Lipkin, great guy. Hope he's listening. He's not. But I remember studying the movie in his class, and I remember really liking this movie. It's got Paul Muni, who we talked about in Life of Emile Zola. So I remember really liking this movie. And from 1932, I didn't have a lot of options for movies to pick for you. So knowing I had seen this and it had been so long, it would play almost like it was brand new to me as well, and it has a strong reputation, and so I was hoping you would like it, and judging by your Letterboxd review, that's exactly the case.
I liked it a lot. So this is a Mervyn LeRoy movie. He's most known for being the producer of Wizard of Oz, and it stars Paul Mooney and a bunch of women who want to get in his pants.
Essentially.
Which is not what you think when you think of a prison movie. Importantly, it's based on the book I'm a Fugitive on a Florida Chain Gang by Robert E. Burns. So this is a creative telling of a true story. Robert E. Burns really was twice sentenced to be on a chain gang and escaped twice and became a big activist against the chain gang system, which this movie, but my Letterboxd review is, what is this woke shit? I was surprised at how crazy woke this movie was. Like Glenda Farrell, Helen Vincent, and Noel Francis are these 3 women who at various points in Mooney's character's life want him. One is a prostitute, maybe. What I thought was so funny is when he meets her, she lifts her dress up just a little bit and he stares at her ankle, and I was like, oh my god, that was real. Everyone makes an ankle joke. That was real. And then she's gone for the rest of the movie, very short. And then the other 2 are sort of women who are battling for him. So one is a woman who marries him. She takes him in and she sort of like takes advantage of him. She finds out that he's a fugitive, and then she really exploits him. Marries him because you can't, as a wife, be compelled to testify against your husband. I don't know if that was the law then, but it is now.
Right. And she mentions that, because she goes, I wouldn't say anything if I had a reason to, like if I was your wife,
right?
Sort of thing. And he's wealthy at this point too, so that's definitely why she's wanting to get married to him.
Exactly. And then the other woman is a woman that he meets at a nightclub and actually loves, and he can't get this divorce, and she supports him. It's actually a pretty small part of the movie, but it's just funny that because it's the 30s, there has to be all these romantic entanglements.
Always.
But the main thrust of the movie is he gets back from fighting in the Great War. I didn't track that the priest or the preacher was his brother. I was like, why is this preacher always in his house?
Yeah.
It's not his dad.
His brother. Yeah.
I didn't track that until the end when he finally calls him his brother. So he's there. His brother wants him to go into back to work at this factory. He doesn't want to. He wants to be an engineer. So he goes off on his own, but he can't find work. And while he's being poor out in the world, he meets this guy who tells him he can get him a free hamburger. That guy wants to stick up the diner, forces him to take the money from the register, and then dies, gets in a shootout with police.
Mm-hmm.
And Paul Mooney's left holding the bag, and so he goes to a chain gang for 10 years, and it's brutal. This is a long way of saying this movie's woke. It's like very conscious of like the segregated prison system and how the black prisoners and the white prisoners are treated differently. The woman who he actually likes at one point, when she's talking about her privilege, she goes, "I'm what did she say? I'm pretty, 21, and white. I can do whatever I want."
Yeah.
That's wild to have said.
In 1932, like the fact that they even conceived of that line, let alone put it in a movie and got passed. I mean, that's incredible.
And that was no doubt a real thing that people were saying at the time. But like, well, you're saying it passed. This is pre-code. So that's why a lot of this stuff passed.
Yeah.
And yeah, all the race stuff is wild. And then the fact that it is abolitionist. It's like, let's get rid of this prison system because it is so brutal. And then on top of all that, Paul Mooney is very entertaining. This is way better than The Life of Emile Zola.
By far, yeah, and it's a much better, more compelling character that they do a lot more with than. I mean, I remember when we talked about Life of Emile Zola, is that it was only like sort of half about Emile Zola, but like really about something else.
Right. It was about Dreyfus, and it should have been about Dreyfus, and they put Emile Zola in there to like soften it.
Mm-hmm.
And this does the opposite. This is like, no, this is what this is about, and we're not screwing around. It's hardcore.
Yeah, it's rough. I mean, it reminded me a lot of Cool Hand Luke, which we also covered on the podcast. There's some parallels. I mean, the characters aren't very similar. I mean, Paul Mooney's not as much of a manic pixie.
He's manic pixie. I mean, Paul Mooney also, like, Luke is a jerk. Luke is a bad person.
Yeah.
And Mooney is wrongfully imprisoned.
Mm-hmm.
And then he turns out to be like the coolest escape artist of all time.
Yeah, the way he escapes is cool, and then he goes on to. I just love, like, in the days of like pre-internet and like pre-TV everywhere, that someone could just escape from prison and just like go somewhere else and live, and make up a fake name. And
right. Well, my favorite line in the whole movie is he's getting his face shaved because he wants to like clean up after his escape, and there's a cop in the barber shop, and he's like so sure he's going to be found out, but the cop's not really paying attention to him, and his face, first off, the close-up on his face when he sees that he's face to face with the cop is perfect, and he starts leaving, he's touching his face, and the barber goes, "Close enough? Plenty."
Yeah.
And then he becomes this like titan of engineering and architecture.
Mm-hmm.
This woman is holding the sword of Damocles over his head with the knowledge, because his jerk preacher brother wrote him a nice letter, but exposing him as a fugitive.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes this wild thing where like this Chicago governor, or this Illinois governor, doesn't want to extradite him back down to, I think it's also Arkansas.
I think so, yeah.
Or anyway, somewhere in the South where chain gangs are a thing. It's really wild. And they keep hammering home these bits about society. By the way, on top of all this, society is segregated. We have this many white prisoners. We have this many Negro prisoners. It's pretty wild.
Yeah, and then it even turns into, something by the end of the movie where, or when we get close to the end, we can spoil this movie. I mean, it's almost 100 years old. When he's discovered, they find out, who he is. He actually offers to go back to the chain gang and do, what is it, like 90 days or something, just so, they
90 days in a clerical job, not 90 days on the chain gang.
Right. Yep. Just,
I was screaming at the television, do not do, I'm like, you're so naive. Don't do this.
Right. But he wants to do the right thing because, he's a good guy and he's a good character. That kind of define, he always wants to stand up, do the right thing. But I was furious. I was like, oh my God, why would you do that? That's they're not going to stick to that. Of course they're not going to stick to that. No one would stick to that. So it was very frustrating, but like in a good way. I think the movie wanted you to feel that way.
It's a decent allegory to today's El Salvadoran issues that we have going on. I mean, granted, it's quite different. People who are not citizens. Some people who are permanent residents are getting deported or threatened to be deported in the United States now. Go back and watch this, because it just, like, we used to have these problems within the country. It's just so interesting, like, that you would be extradited from Illinois to another state, and that there would be people fighting over that, but this happened. Yeah,
it's an oddly prescient movie for, again, how old it is, and what you think of generally for movies of that era. Yeah, it's really, really impressive. I was really surprised at how well it held up, just because I hadn't seen it in so long, and just like what the overall feeling and vibe of the movie is very different from a lot of other things from that era.
Did this movie get any Oscar love?
A little bit, yeah. It was nominated for 3. It lost all of them, but it was up for Best Picture, which it lost to a movie called Cavalcade. Barf. Cavalcade is generally regarded as one of the worst winners of all time. Paul Mooney was up for Best Actor. He lost to Charles Laughton in The Private Life of Henry VIII, which I haven't seen, but I understand. He has Charles Laughton.
He's
doing
incredible.
Henry VIII. I mean, not hard to see that being good. And then also was up for Best Sound Recording, which it lost to the Hemingway adaptation Farewell to Arms, which I also haven't seen.
Right on. Where do these two movies land in your top movies of the 1930s list?
I do have a top of the 1930s list, and I have Trouble in Paradise is my number 20. It is right behind the first Frankenstein and right in front of Sons of the Desert. And man, I'm a Fugitive from a Chain Gang feels really low to me, but then when I look at the kind of the movies above it, I'm like, well, okay, I kind of get it. But I have it at number 14, and it's just behind Bride of Frankenstein and right in front of My Man Godfrey.
Wow, wild. I have Trouble in Paradise at number 13, right behind Bringing Up Baby and right in front of Alfred Hitchcock's Sabotage. And I have Arbitrage. That's where it came from, Arbitrage. Sabotage. And I'm a Fugitive on a Chain Gang at number 4, right behind Modern Times and right in front of George Cukor's Holiday, starring Cary Grant and Katharine Hepburn.
I love I'm a Fugitive from a Chain Gang. I think it's really great. But I mean, just for comparison's sake, some of the movies I have above it, I've got like It Happened One Night, All Quiet on the Western Front, King Kong, Wizard of Oz, Stagecoach, Modern Times, Make Way for Tomorrow, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. So yeah, there's a lot of movies I love from this decade.
For sure. We have a little time left over. We got through these pretty quickly. And I know we've done sub 20-minute episodes before, but I don't want to. So have you seen anything good recently that you want to just talk about for a bit?
Oh, yes. I saw The Ballad of Wallis Island recently, which I really, really loved. That's another, it feels like a John Carney movie. If you know any of his movies, he did Once and Begin Again and Sing Street. The Ballad of Wallis Island has a similar vibe to that, where it's very much about the music. It's this guy, this eccentric millionaire. He won the lottery. He actually won the lottery twice, which is amazing. He's just this eccentric rich guy who lives on an isolated island, Wallis Island. He loved this band. It was a male and a female singer, and they were together, and man, they're not together anymore, but he secretly invites them both to perform a private concert, and the audience is literally only him. Like, he is the only person to be in the audience. So he gets these musicians back together, and they start kind of playing the old songs, and of course old feelings come up. The woman is now married, so her husband is also along with her on this trip, so there's some tension there. But so it's a lot like a John Carney movie in that there's a lot of the drama surrounding the music to it, but it also has this just phenomenally comedic performance from a guy named Tim Key, who I don't know from anything else. I've never seen him in anything. No, I'm sorry, he was also in Mickey 17 this year. He had a small part in that. Those are the only things I've ever seen him in. But he is so just amazingly awkwardly funny in this, and he's just this kind of dynamo in the middle of the movie that everything kind of revolves around, and it's just really a sweet movie. It's funny. The music is very good. Carey Mulligan is in it. I mean, who doesn't love Carey Mulligan? She's so great. That's a really, really good movie that I saw recently, and I think you would like that too.
I've been trying to catch it. Tim Key was also in See How They Run last year, or maybe the year before. Yeah. Just like, okay. He's very funny in it. But
yeah, I never saw that one. I thought I was going to like it, and then like the reviews came out, it was pretty mess, so I never got around to it.
Yeah, it's not that great. Anything else you want to say about this one?
No, I mean, just like if you get a chance to see it, I mean, it's playing in pretty limited release. I think it's on VOD, and I think the premium VOD, so it should be coming out to rent or on some streamers soon. But yeah, really, really a nice movie. So
I am excited to talk about La Cocina with you, because I know you didn't really like it, and I thought it was spectacular.
Yeah, it's in your top 4.
Well, now I'm doing a thing where just like any movie that I see that's over 4.5 stars is in my top 4. I just loved every bit of it. I loved the way it was shot. I love that for the first half of the movie, the top third or sometimes half of the screen is bereft of character. I thought the black and white was really good, and I thought the 2 scenes where there's a little splash of color were done really well. I've talked about this with Annie a lot, because most television shows are about rich people, and I don't find that super interesting all the time, just because there is so much of it. Like right now, we are watching The Studio, Your Friends and Neighbors, and The Four Seasons. These are all movies about obscenely rich people doing obscenely rich things.
Well, yeah, and then recently too, you got The White Lotus, Succession, that are all these wildly popular shows. So yeah,
Modern Family was all rich people. I mean, like most shows are about really rich people who don't have any struggles. Now, I don't want the TV shows to necessarily be about the struggles, but I think the reason Roseanne was so popular is because it was about people like the people who were watching the show. And it's like The Office was about regular people doing a 9 to 5. Parks and Rec was not about rich people. These are funny shows that like And these people aren't miserable, but they have to deal with like real stuff. And they can't just on a moment's notice go to Puerto Rico and then be upset because the trip isn't as fancy as they want it to be. Or White Lotus, which is about the trappings of wealth. So wait, what am I talking about? Oh, La Cocina. So I really liked that this movie is about people who like have really very little and also are living around the corner from me, because it takes place in sort of a timeless, it sort of feels like it's in the 90s. No, there's no cell phones. Although there's just one when Rooney Mara's character goes to an abortion clinic at one point in the movie, these girls are talking about a reality show, and I looked up the reality show they're talking about, and it's current. And I was like, oh, that's weird, because this movie seems to be very analog, but then they're talking about this.
Yeah, what was the show, the reality show?
I don't remember now.
Oh,
it's not something I watch.
Right. But it exists. It's a real show.
It at least shares the name with a show that exists now.
Oh, okay.
So maybe it wasn't meant to exist. Maybe it's a goof. But like reality TV also wasn't really a thing in the 90s. To the extent it's not. Like you had The Real World and that was it. So I thought that was like weirdly anachronistic in a movie where no one's using cell phones. Like there's literally people going up to payphones and stuff like that. So I thought it was really well acted. And it was, I know your complaint about it was that it was long and you felt like it kind of lost the plot, but I like that it was just sort of, the mood was what I think the workers in the kitchen, it's about people who work in basically a TGI Fridays in Times Square, back of house.
Well, in front of house too. There's some front of house stuff going on in that movie. Yeah.
But the story is about what happens in the kitchen. There are waitresses. Yeah, there's a little bit of front of house stuff. Like Rooney Mara at one point, you see what she's dealing with the customers, but it's much less about that. It's much more about the folks in the kitchen who are primarily not permanent residents, and they're being teased by the restaurant owner, baited with citizenship or with a green card. I thought like the sort of crushing feeling of the movie was meant to give you the crushing feeling that they're enduring as kitchen workers, and I really, really like that. And I loved the ending, which I won't spoil because this is on Mubi right now, and you can watch this on Mubi for.
And it's more recent. Yeah,
it came out last year.
Yeah, did you update your top list of last year?
I did, which we will get to later
when we do that episode. I love the aesthetics of the movie too, and I mean, I love the way it's shot. I mean, anybody who's going to use black and white, you've got my attention. Number one, because like I love it, and especially when it's used well. So there was like when we talked about recently, we talked about The Frighteners. I was like, oh yeah, there's a lot that I like about this movie, and there's a good things behind it. But yeah, I that main character, I hated him. I hated him so much, and I couldn't sympathize with him by the end. And I felt like maybe the movie kind of wanted me to.
I don't think we were meant to like sympathize with these people. Like I think in the beginning of the movie, maybe you are, but as more about him comes out, he's vile.
He's terrible, yeah.
Yeah. I don't think you're meant to sympathize with him. I think it's daring you to confront that he's a real person, just like anyone else. And just because his story is difficult and his dad doesn't like him, and he's in America trying to do his best, and he's charismatic, and he wants to start this family. But it also, like, what I liked about it was it sort of brings back around, like, why is she being unkind to him? And it's like, she knows he's unkind.
Yeah.
So I think it's just sort of like revealing him as the movie goes on. I think you're absolutely not supposed to like him or feel like behind him at the end of the movie. He's destroying everyone. In fact, the movie kind of makes you hate the white guy in the kitchen at the beginning, the dude with long hair. And by the end, you're like, no, that guy was right.
He's not that bad, yeah.
He's dealing. And also the movie tells you he's not that bad because other characters are like, man, that guy's such an ass. He's like, yeah, but when they tried to fire me, he threatened to quit unless they kept me. He's a dick. But he's being pushed by this other guy who's such a monster. Yeah. So, yeah, I just thought it was complicated, not like mischaracterized.
Interesting, yeah. But I'd still recommend it, even though like I gave it, I think I gave it 3 or 3.5 stars. I mean, I'd still recommend it because it's a unique movie. And I mean, clearly we can have very disparate opinions about it. So I would despite my hesitations, would definitely still recommend it.
Yeah, me too. But I gave it 4.5 stars. I think it's fantastic. It's one of my favorite movies of 2024, which we will talk about on an upcoming episode. So that'll do it for Never Did It. Next week, a couple of pandemic era movies from 2020.